Thanks for listening. If you'd like to schedule a one on one coaching with Dr. Lodhi, please visit drsadaf.com. I am an American board certified OBGYN, a mom, a Muslim, and I'm talking about sex. This is the Muslim Sex Podcast. Welcome to the Muslim Sex Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sadaf Lodhi, and this episode is everything you needed to know about coaching for parenthood. Before I got into it, the very first thing I want to make very clear is that I am not giving any type of medical advice. So if you have any concerns about your health, please speak with your healthcare provider. And if you have any questions about your religion, please ask your friendly neighborhood religious leader. It's the Muslim Sex Podcast because I just happen to be a Muslim woman that talks about sex. So on today's episode, I am super excited to have with me the parenting coach, Shireen. And Shireen is a coach for both women and for parents and is a school psychologist. But Shireen, I am going to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself.
Hi, Dr. Sadaf. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Shireen Quaizar. I am a certified school psychologist. I'm also a certified life coach. I work with parents, helping them develop positive relationships with their children. I also do mindset coaching for women, and they happen to be mothers. So yeah.
That is awesome. So tell me a little bit more about mindset coaching. Like, what's the process? How do you go about doing that? And then how does that fit in with the parenting?
So I initially started working with the parents because my job is mostly like I work with children 2 to 21. So when I was working with parents, like working on the children's behaviors, how to communicate with your children, how to talk about certain topics that are difficult topics with your children, I figured out there were a lot of mental blocks that women had. There were a lot of resistance they had. There was, hesitation. There was some generational trauma. So that's when I started working on women mindset. So I do when I work with women, I help them get rid of their past, like generational trauma that they have, and then we work on moving their thoughts towards more positivity, more empowered thought process, and more mindfulness and self care for their well being. So like mindset coaching just basically like came out because again, if we are empowered mothers, we will raise empowered children.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. So tell me a little bit about your parenting coaching that you have. Is that, so I know you're a school psychologist. So does that, that's a separate business, I assume, or something separate that you do?
So yes, so I work full time in school system as a school psychologist. I'm like, I do assessments for special education, and in my role, I have also done counseling, group counseling, individual counseling for children, going through like like array of things. It can be social skills, it can be behaviors, it can be anything. Um, I started parent coaching when I was working with the babies. And that's when I found out that there was like, when I say babies, it's like 2 to 5. That's when I found out that there were so many parents, they had, like, they needed support, like, especially like, like initially when I started working with Muslim community. I started seeing there were like a lot of issues with bullying. Parents didn't know how to respond to Islamophobia. They didn't know how to communicate. Like we are from a generation where our parents said what they said, and like you know and we just had to follow it. We are raising a totally different generation, and when I would tell parents that listen to your children, it came out like a shock to them. So that's when I started a parent coaching. I got certification in life coaching, and then I started parent coaching because I really feel like before we work with our children, we need to work with our parents. We need to give them the skills. And more than ever, now it is important for parents to have a positive relationship with their children. We need to switch it from an authority and submissiveness to more of as a collaborators. So, like your children are your collaborators, and like as a family you have a certain goal that you have to achieve. It's not parents vision anymore, it's the family's vision now. So that was my switch to parent coaching. So I do a lot of workshops where I work with parents, then I also work at the with the children. So I have done social emotional learning series, especially after COVID. We have seen our children are struggling with social emotional learning, and it all starts from home. So I think parents need those tools to really strategize how to help their children thrive in the society.
Sure, sure. So, what are some of the most common problems that you see that you end up coaching parents on?
The biggest one is lack of communication,
Mm,
and lack of communication has it's almost like an octopus. It has like so many tentacles, that if you think about it, that like lack of communication can result in anything. So there are so many topics, like these days, I know a lot of parents are approaching me regarding how to talk to their children about homosexuality, their own sexuality, how to talk to their children about things that their parents never spoke to them about. A lot of things that were considered stigma, taboo, growing up, but now they are so out there that the only people who are not talking about are the people who need to talk about it, which are
right,
parents.
absolutely.
So so again, it's like children are defiant, children are rebelling, children are really trying to find out their identity because there is no communication at home. So I think
Right.
that's what the goal is these days, with I think almost everyone is working towards that, how to
Sure.
have better communication.
Sure. So, why don't you, maybe if you could, help our listeners and some of our viewers, like what would be like a process that you would use to help parents to communicate a little bit better with their children?
So first, what I do is there is a whole onboarding process. I need to find out what the goal of the family is. Usually, when they come in, their goal is like completely different. I need to work with you because I need to handle a child who is not listening to me.
Sure.
Then I basically do a onboarding process where I find out what are the goals, and 99 out of 100 times it is basically there is lack of communication. The child the It's like they are speaking two different languages at home. What the parent is saying, the child is not registering, and what the child is saying, the parent is not understanding. And our children use so much nonverbal communications as well. So I do ask all of that, okay, so how does the child react when you ask them to do this, or when they say some such and such thing, how do you react? Sometimes if they are older children, I do interview children separately as well, and I think it has always helped me because that helps me bridge the gap. I come in as a neutral party, and if that so once that happens, then I almost became a liaison between the parent and the child. But my
Sure.
goal is not it's so I always tell people that life coaching is not a life sentence. You are not with me forever. You are going to My goal is to make you feel you independent with all of the strategies that I'm giving you. So the
Right.
idea is for them to generalize these strategies at home. And then I give homeworks, of course, and I give them, the parent and children, tasks to do for each other, which are basically active listening, which is not just, again, like nonverbal communication, whatever comes out of their mouth, and also going into the emotional intelligence. Because I think if one thing our parents didn't do was talk about emotional intelligence.
Right.
So yeah, it is a fun process. um I have had amazing results with it, especially if the children and parents work together. When the children are younger, I usually try to work with the parents. I do see children too, just because I need to have a better picture of what's going on at home.
Right, right, right. So, how do you facilitate that communication? I agree with you 100%. I think that, oftentimes the problems that we see in most type of relationships, right, stems from communication or lack thereof. And, people are not saying what they really want, or maybe they're being passive aggressive, or, like, oh, well, go ahead, do it if you want, but, they don't really want them to do it or something like that, right? So, how do you actually get them to communicate better?
So I think the biggest thing is that, like we struggle with as parents is showing our own vulnerabilities to the children, to show them, like, parents think that our children have this perfect perception of us, and like children has to see us as someone who doesn't make mistakes. I think what is more important to tell the parents that, be yourself. Children will relate to us more, especially again when I'm talking about children, I'm talking about these Gen
Yeah.
Z, they are bombarded with, technology. They know what's going on. They don't need a perfect picture in front of them. They need to know that their struggle is not unique. And that's what I tell parents. I never sit down with parent and child at the same time. I let them have this conversation on their own, because I do think it's so vulnerable that they don't need a third person in between them at that point. But what I do focus on is how, what are they going to say. So sometimes I'll provide scripts to the parents. For children, interestingly, I don't have to ever provide scripts. It's so and again, like the children these days are so much into journaling. So there's the, like, I would say that, okay, get a journal and start writing your thoughts down. If you want, you can ask your parents to check. Same with social media, like, like parents are coming that, oh, we like I don't trust social media at screen time. So I always say, like, privacy is a privilege. And if you want to go over your child's cell phone, don't go at, like, go and look, go don't go look at it behind their backs. Go look at it when you're sitting next to them, so that children trust you. Like, they know that you're not going to sneak around when they are gone. And I think that is the most important thing. I think building trust is like very important to for all kinds of conversation. Again, we cannot have any conversation with the kids until we have better, like, they know that, we are human, we can make mistakes, and they know that they can trust us.
Yeah, I think that, showing that vulnerable side, right, as parents is very difficult for us because, like you said, we want our children to, see us as, I don't know, maybe being, their role models, or maybe we want them to see us as if we're infallible or something like that. But I agree with you. I think it's better if the children see us make mistakes, and then they see us how we recover from those mistakes, right? Or if we do something that's wrong, that we apologize to them, right?
Yes,
Because that shows them that it doesn't matter if you're an adult or if you're a kid, right? That we all make mistakes, but it's important to own up to your mistakes, and then, apologize if you're the one that made the mistake, so that they learn and see, and they can model behavior as well, and so that they learn how to apologize and take into account other people's feelings. I think that's so important, right? do you
absolutely.
do you focus on modeling? I'm sure, as
Yes.
for
So again, in the psychology world, we call it scaffolding more than modeling. So it's basically the first time you model it for the child, the second time you assist the child with that activity, and then third time you let the child do it independently. And again,
parents.
that, like, for a lot of parents, that's very anxiety inducing, because they're not used to of staying back. It's like, while the child does certain things. So yes, a lot of modeling, especially like when it comes to like self-care. um Self-care, like, it's not just going to spa or having a mask on. Self-care is so many things, and there is a guilt associated around self-care. So whenever we talk about self-care, I always tell moms, like, treat yourself the way you want people to treat your child. So if you want people to treat your child with kindness, treat yourself with kindness. Again, like everything that you want for your child, you need to implement it on you, because this is where the sacrificial mentality comes. This is where that martyr mentality comes, where that it's okay, like I can, like my life is my children, and my life is just to like make sure that everything is perfect. No, I think like children need to see that you are a human being. You need to take care of yourself. If you are asking them to eat greens, then you eat greens. If you want them to have like less junk food, then you have less junk food. Same with the bedtime and stuff.
Right, absolutely. I think that's so important, right? To set the proper example for your children. And that way they know how to behave or how to handle different types of situations. Now, can you tell me a little bit about specific coaching that you might do, like a scenario that you may coach a parent and a child for? I know you mentioned communication, but any other type of problems that you've recently seen that you've coached parents on?
So there's like again, since COVID, there is a lot of anxiety and self-doubt. So like mask automatically gave some children a way to hide. And we know, like there is, like the teenage years, like anywhere between 9 to 18 is the time where the children are going through an identity crisis. There's like they want to know who they are. They are trying to explore that, and for a lot of children that was taken away. So now it is almost like there is a lot of like self-doubt. There's a lot of anxiety with social situations. So that is another piece that I have been working on with currently with the families, that how to help children feel comfortable in social settings and where not to push them. So interestingly, in those areas, I do not see the children because they don't want to see me at that point.
Mm,
I do ask parents to keep talking about how they are seeing a coach to help them understand what's going on with their children. And after 4 or 5 sessions, the children do get introduced at that point. And then we do talk about how to build self-esteem. And again, like these children are like COVID did impact children way more than we expected, not just academically, not just socially, the emotions, like the idea of like
mm.
how to handle your own emotions, because they were
Sure,
in this home 24/7 with their parents. No possibility of going out to be with friends. The
sure.
emotional intelligence piece was very disconnected. So I have been working on that as well. And there's another thing that also is like like most of my clients are women who are either going through divorce or the
Mm.
single mothers. And
Oh,
when they are struggling with finding their own identity
yes.
while raising their children. So that is, I think 50% of my clients are like that. So at that point, I do talk about children, but at that, like, I'm only focusing on those women. I make sure that they have a good plan for themselves. They have their goals set. And once they have that, it is so interesting, Sadaf. Automatically, you can start seeing that their approach to parenting becomes different. I don't even have to tell them what to do, how to handle issues with their children, because they are filling themselves with what their like mind, body, soul needs.
Sure. So that's really interesting, right? So that you're helping women empower themselves, right?
Yes,
So
I'm
that
trying
they
to. Yeah.
so that they can own their own voices and their own narratives. And that's so important. I try to do the same with empowering women through education. And I think that, of course, we know that, women tend to be the biggest caregivers at home, right? And so if we empower women and if we educate women, the thought is that, that'll trickle down to their children and their families, and that you can raise up a family that way, right? Especially
Yeah.
if a family is struggling emotionally, right? And they're trying to connect with each other. And so often the mom becomes like that bridge that's able to connect the family and bring the family closer together. So I think that's great. that you're working so much with families and with women. Um, any other struggles that you see, that you've noted in women that you often help them with? I know you said you help them find their voice and to focus on the children, but anything else that you've noted in women that you've had to help them with?
So, it interestingly, we all have different problems, but they usually have like same basic like underlying issues.
Hmm.
And most recent study indicated that people who thrive, they are very different from others who are just trying to survive and going through daily routine. So people who thrive, their one biggest component that they have is they perseverance.
Hmm.
So when we work with women, we have to tell them, like th- if you look at it, like whether they're parents, whether they're single mothers, whether they are, um, women who don't have children. Like I have career coached two women, and interestingly, they came to me because their mothers were thinking that they were going through some issues, but it was not. They were just trying to find their own identity. An
Yeah.
idea was we don't teach our children how to persevere. We are with this helicopter parenting, with this tiger parenting, and I call in like Indian Pakistani families, we have land mower parenting. We have
Mhm.
like there's no like no chance of growing if like we are parenting. So when we do that, we fail to recognize the child's own grit, resilience, their tolerance to frustration or tolerance to any chance of failures. So whenever I have been coaching women, I always do this positive intelligence questionnaire. I am certified in positive intelligence. So I do a positive intelligence questionnaire where we talk about our own judge. And when we start thinking about our judge, many women are like, they're shocked when they find out how their internal judge is, like basically making decisions, like their day-to-day decisions. How do I dress myself? What color should I wear? Where should I go? Who should I hang out with? What should come out of my mouth? It's they, and like they say, like people think that everybody's watching me, but they don't realize that everyone in the table is thinking that people are watching me. So it's the self perception is basically that people struggle with that when they lack perseverance, when they lack resilience. It is, yeah. So once I found that research study, every time I talk to women, I start with the positive intelligence questionnaire, and then I talk about perseverance and resilience. And 100% of the time, that is the root cause of whatever struggle they are feeling.
Hmm. So perseverance and resilience. So you're saying they don't have perseverance or resilience, or
Yes, because we are not taught, if we fail at something, we are not taught to just keep going, like keep trying to achieve. For example, like our goals and ambitions are very, like, we have very tunnel focus. Like once you become a mother, your role is a mother. Like once a woman gets married, she, like, all of a sudden there were certain doors that close. But what if she's an ambitious woman? Just because she's married and now she has kids doesn't mean that her ambitions close. So that is where the perseverance, there's like that disconnect. So we are not taught to persevere regardless of what obstacles we face. So
hmm,
whenever we face a obstacle, our first instinct is to just give up. Our judge tells us you can't do it. So
yeah.
that's when you have to, so again, like part of positive intelligence mentality is that you have, when you have judge, you also have your mental sages that are protective factors. They are who that are working, and you have to make them work like you work any other muscles. And
Mm.
at that point, you need to, like, how to keep going at it. And again, the only person who perseveres is the person who has resilience, who knows that failures are just an experience and they just need to keep going.
Sure. Sure. So positive intelligence is different than emotional intelligence, right? So it's
Yes. So
so the
emotional intelligence means, how your emotions work. You are in tune with your emotions, and you need, like, you know how to uh, like, you know what makes you happy, and how you react to certain situations. Positive intelligence is how you rework your thoughts. And I think you said it the other day, that our thoughts turn into beliefs, and our beliefs turn into actions. And that's exactly what positive intelligence works on. It works on mindfulness, like being very mindful of what is stopping you from
Mm,
achieving the best self of you. And
yeah,
the idea is not, me at my best is not equal to you at your best. But
right.
as long as I think I am at my best, nothing should matter, because my judge at that point will be quiet, and my sages will be in effect. There's a huge component of empathy in positive intelligence that they talk about, that, like, you need to be like, empathy, of course, like, all of us have empathy. We all would, like, tomorrow I tell you about a sad story, you'll be like, okay, who do I write a check to, where should I give charity? But who we don't show empathy to? Ourselves. We
Hmm.
all, like, we are all hard on yourself. And I know you're a full-time working mom. You have a business, you have like a busy schedule, you have, like, tons of things going on, but you do those things because they fill your cup. The moment they stop filling your cup, that means at that point you need to show yourself that empathy and step back, and, like, maybe, like, take things at your own pace. And I think, for me, getting, like, understanding positive intelligence was so much beneficial, because I started putting healthy boundaries, I started removing toxic people from my life, and I think I became more ambitious after that.
Amazing. That is amazing. Well, I'm going to have to look at, actually, I have a book, and I was just thinking about it. I have a book that I ordered on positive intelligence. Actually, I have it right there in my on my bookshelf. I have a book on positive intelligence. Yeah, so I was like, I need to pick it up and read it. I haven't read
Yes,
it.
yeah, and like, I have always been a very fiction reader. Like, every time somebody would say, like, "What kind of books you read?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't read like nonfiction stuff." Since, I don't know, like, it in last 3 years there has been this shift. I do not listen to any fiction stuff, or I do not pick up a book that is just brainless, like, novel. I love, like, these self-help books. I am, like, very like, I am very attracted to these positive intelligence, how to shift your mindset, like, manifestation. Again, I feel like once I understood what was filling my cup. And again, like, what is a happy woman? A happy woman is a woman who feel accomplished, and a woman who is content with what's going on in her life. That's the definition of a happy woman. So once I told myself that I am a happy woman, I started looking for things that make me happy. And that was, like, again, I think the concept of manifestation, everything just, like, started coming together like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, so I want you to actually tell me a little bit about manifestation. I know you talked about that a little bit before, but tell me exactly it is.
So a few years ago, I stumbled upon to one of someone's Instagram, and they were talking about manifestation. They said, like, think about, you will get $5,000 and at the end of the week, and you'll get it. And I laughed out loud, and my husband said, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "Because she said, if I think that I'm going to get $5,000, I will get $5,000." He said, "This is why you're not going to get $5,000." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because you're laughing at it. You think it's a joke." So manifestation is basically, like, and, like, again, if your listeners are all Muslims, people think manifestation is a non-Islamic concept. Manifestation is, like, I think it's like, the root of manifestation is whatever we are taught as Muslims. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what you want, and have a strong desire, work towards it, and you'll get it. That's law of manifestation. And again, if you are at a positive, like, like a higher vibration level, you are thinking about, like, again, like, my goal last year was to start a business. I started working like I like very slow things. And I would always tell people like, I don't know what I'm spending money on, but I'm just spending money. And I hired coaches, I hired like, things. A lot of people said that, again, like what are you doing? But I had this, like there was this strong desire of having something of my own. Now, I did not put a number to it. But I did put a date. Like by July, I will have an LLC. I will have this, like, I even put in a Gucci bag. I didn't get a Gucci bag, but I did get a YSL. So, but like, again, I did a, like, I am all into like these goals and New Year's resolution. So I created a vision board for myself, and I told myself I'm going to do all of those things. And it was not easy. With that desire, there was a lot of actions that I had to do. So manifestation is not just I want $5,000 by the end of the week and I'm going to get it. Manifestation is I want $5,000 at the end of the week, and universe is going to get me what I want. And then I start putting in actions. So again, but I feel like we can only implement these things when we know how our mindset works. What is stopping us from achieving those goals? And I think at this point, I'm so mindful of my anxieties. I'm a very anxious person, and I say it out loud. I never said it out loud. Now I have allowed myself to be vulnerable. Um, 2 weeks ago at the retreat, I told you something very big about my life. I never told anyone about that. Like, it, for me, it was something that I will never say it out loud in front of anyone. But at that point, I thought that, saying it is not going to impact me in a negative way. And it did. Like, I did not feel that anxiety that I was expecting to come after saying it out loud to you. Maybe because you provided that safe space, because you did give that confidence that whatever comes out of my mouth will not be considered a taboo, something that will be judged, or something that you will talk about with someone else. So again, it's like, it is great to have ambitions. It is great to have these ideas of manifestation, but they also say, like, if you want to manifest something, you have to say it out loud, you have to put it out there. So I have been telling everyone at my work, at my friend circle, that I'm going to retire at 55. I work for Department of Education, so the retirement age is 63. Before that, you get penalty to retire. But I have said it out loud, and I know that by 55 I'm going to retire. So I am putting all the actions in place right now for to help me retire by 55 and not feel the burnt of not getting my full pension.
That's amazing. Well, very good. That is totally awesome. And I can see where, the mindset comes in and the coaching comes in and all of that and the manifestation, you are embodying what you talk about and what you teach others. And I think that's fantastic. So thank you, Shireen, for sharing all of that. I really appreciate it. And I think that we are actually done here. So it's been real and really informative, Shireen. And I really appreciate your time and all the knowledge that you've shared with us today. And maybe you can help our viewers and our listeners know how they can find you and reach out to you, and if they're looking for mindset coaching for women and or help with parenting, I think that you would be an excellent resource for them. So if you can just let our viewers know how to get in touch with you.
Thank you so much for providing this platform, and I really want to say thank you also, like, thank you for providing this space for women to overcome their personal mental blocks and like tune in. So if anyone who wants to find me, I am on Instagram mostly, with at psyched, psyched Shireen and my website is www.coherentparenting.com, which I might rebrand in near future. But yeah, so if anyone wants to reach out to me, they can reach out to me. And also my email address is Shireen, Shireen, at coherentparenting.com.
That's awesome. I love your Instagram, actually. I learned so much. I go on there and I listen to what you have to say about parenting and coaching and things like that. I think it's so informative. So thank you for being out there and putting yourself out there. Well, I am done here. It's been real and really intimate. And remember, this is not meant to be any type of advice. So if you're having any questions about your health, please see your healthcare provider. And if you have any questions about your religion, please see your friendly neighborhood religious leader. And if you have any questions at all about mindset, make sure you get in touch with Shireen because she would love to help you. And remember, until next time, this is the Muslim Sex Podcast. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to schedule a one-on-one coaching with Dr. Lodhi, please visit drsadaf.com. And until next time, this is the Muslim Sex Podcast.